Hey everyone, welcome back to my 25th podcast episode for Yelena Talks. Today's episode is called Say No to Sabotage. It's been kind of an interesting topic because every week I wonder what's the podcast topic for this week. And this week it's not what's the podcast topic as much as what's the topic of the week been for myself, my business, my clients, everything I've been posting on social media. And the topic is self-sabotage. Actually, good news. One of my so far favorite, most fun flowing YouTube videos has been the topic about self-sabotage. I posted it this week. I've been just talking about these negative cycles to help people destroy anything that's coming up within themselves that they themselves do to hold themselves not just back, but like ultimately destroy themselves. And I was just, bringing in a few material I want to cover for today's topic. And on my phone, I said, "Hey Siri, define self-sabotage." And it kept on coming up as self-destruct, which is, it didn't even say self-sabotage. It would just translate it to self-destruct, which honestly makes sense. It's you getting in the way consciously, oftentimes subconsciously, in a way where you destroy, distract, limit, obstruct, hold yourself back, and the list continues. And you know what? I've been identifying deeper and deeper as we grow and heal, which is synonymous for me, areas where subconsciously I've been even holding myself back. And I just think about how people, I was listening to some coach, and believe it or not, I signed up for another program because I already know the more I get connected with one-on-one help or any kind of group coaching context, it's just you are forced to elevate. When you encounter yourselves with people who have minds, understandings, spirit, soul, whatever, on a higher level, like they will guide you to get there and you almost have no choice to ascend there, like especially if you're paying money to enroll in the group. And so I've identified a couple of areas in my business where I'm like, I know I could do better. I know I can go higher. Let's do this. And I committed. And how I understand it is the more I put myself out there and take like this risk, the more I'm like, I have to succeed. It's going to be way too expensive to not succeed. So anyways, I'm talking so fast, but my point is being around people who kind of force you to level up and elevate, being around people who have higher mindsets about like how love can be in relationships. Is it possible? Can you have honeymoon and love and all that jazz for a long time? What does that look like? And you know what? When I am around people who say no, honestly, I'm not going to listen to that. Not to sound rude and not to sound like I'm just denying them or disagreeing completely. It's just to say, I want to be careful what I feed my brain and my heart, because that is that subconscious standard or level that I will continue to tap out of prematurely. Who says that's like, it's no different than like this concept of people used to say back in the day, you can't run the mile quicker than 4 minutes. And that's how it was. Like it just ingrained in everyone's head, you can't do that. And no one was able to until someone finally said, who says so? Who said I will beat it. I will beat it and I will prove it. And after that, one person successfully ran quicker than 4 minutes. Now it's like the norm for, I'd say, like certain athletes, not me. Oh my goodness. But whoa, sabotage speaking? Okay, anyways, so I've just been on it with this topic. Like, how do people sabotage? Check out my YouTube video from this week where I go into it like pretty hardcore. We blame others, we repeat bad cycles, we have an idea and do nothing with it. We prematurely end things, we go back, like there's so many things that we do. And I even had a couple people reach out and say, you are speaking to me. So I've just been like assessing and doing a lot of reflection in myself, like where does the norm, which again, normal is a very subjective word. In fact, normal sometimes can even mean a religion, because it's like, what standard structure rule have you made up that's like so cookie cutter now? You're holding yourself from the colors, the power and success that you can have. And so when people say honeymoon season for relationships is this much and then you're done, I am very hesitant to fully digest that and receive that. And in fact, actually knowing that makes me want to dig in and tap into what other people do to prolong that, to continue to have that polarity, the flames, intimacy, love, excitement, and whatnot. That's no different than, whatever statistic, again, standard rule, what bar you've set in your head as like max limit versus, like, for instance, like money. How much money can I make in a week versus a month versus, wait, do I have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a month to receive, let's say, 5,000? What if I can work 10 hours max a week and actually get 30,000 a month? I mean, honestly, like someone once said, numbers are so arbitrary. And when we just get out of this box and just believe the God of abundance can guide you, lead you, take you further than you thought, and why not as kingdom people? I just heard that from someone and I'm like, I choose to believe that. And honestly, her life is a reflection of that. She has it. It's like, it almost looks like she has it all. And I'm like, boom, I'm going to set my eyes and my sights on someone who is, experiencing what they preach, and I'm going to believe that they've tapped into something that maybe I should be wise enough to actually listen to. And so, and in fact, I was just even listening to a Christian business woman who does courses, coaching, just a bunch of stuff, and she receives amazing money. And she has a lot to say about that. But anyways, besides money, because that's a really easy one, because you can quantify that because it's a number. But like, what else? Success. What does success look like? What about abundance? What about health? What about like how much joy and adventure you have and new discoveries and creations, and the list goes on. Like, sky is not the limit for us kingdom people. Like, literally heaven is. And in heaven, which is all of eternity, that you can't cap it, we literally have access to abundance. It is our rightful inheritance, and I choose to believe that. And so even this week, I've just been processing so much. And naturally, if you guys know anything about my life right now, this girl is planning a wedding, remodeling a house, and building businesses. And someone can say, that's way too much. And you know what? Maybe it's a lot, but I will refuse to say it's max. I choose to tap into, like, where am I emotionally? How am I doing? Can I continue to flow? Does it come with ease? Where do I find that something is challenging? Why is it challenging? Overwhelm? Is it perceived? Is it real? How do I do self-care? I just think that there's no formula. There's no cookie cutter way of what's right, what's wrong, what's ridiculous or insane. I need to tap into what I have. And I already know God created me to be a very talented person. So let's do it. So anyways, I've just been processing a lot of things within me. And if I'm being honest, you know what's actually hard? It's not even planning the wedding and remodeling the house or anything else. It's me sitting down and actually processing things. And I was actually going to even name this podcast at first. Maybe that's another episode. Like, why is healing hard or difficult, or a podcast called something like Issues of Life or Issues of the Heart. I mean, future topics for the future, of course. But the reason I settled on this is the topic of sabotage. I have just been processing, like, legit, where am I limiting myself? Where do I hold myself back? And now that I've learned so many principles of how to process and heal and grow, and I found that I've heard a lot of clients say that sometimes with counseling, they learned a lot, but they didn't always get to a point where the counselor, I can't blame anyone, but people have reported that they didn't know what to do with all this information. And for me, something I'm very passionate about is, yes, teaching people, but then, like, if you don't know how to apply it after you're done with me, then I've only done, like, I'd say 30% of my job. Like, you have to know how to do it. And so my Free to Thrive course goes really deep. I literally have a unit at the very end to saying things you could do to help yourself grow and heal. And so I 100% use the same principles on myself, because I can't just know things. I have to consistently implement and apply them in my own life. So anyways, sabotage, say no to sabotage, comes from because I'm doing so many things. My threshold or window of tolerance is a little bit more squeezed in terms of how much stress and decisions and mental stuff the capacity I could hold. before I start to maybe crack a little, which then I go into my positive coping mechanisms and connection and relax and do what I got to do. But the thing is with triggers, you can get triggered easier. Let me explain. Excuse me. What I mean by that is, it's like we all know this. When we're already emotional and tired and hungry, like it doesn't take a lot for like someone to say something and that's like upsetting. And I'm not saying like hormonally, like someone can say your plant is ugly and you cry. Not necessarily that, but you never know. Like what if I take that so personally and you just activated my core wound because I care and I poured my all into this plant, and you're right, it is kind of dying and now I feel like such a failure. Oh my gosh, my plant leaf just fell off as we speak. Anyways, my point is, anytime when we get triggered, it's a sign of something deeper going on. And instead of us getting upset and distressed and mad about it, we have to look at everything as data. I was speaking to a client today and I told her we're not assessing and bullying and yelling at ourselves because something is a failure or it's bad or it's wrong or you messed up. That's not how we look at it. We look at things as data. What did you learn? Are you getting closer to what you want? What should you not do anymore? How should you pivot instead? Because when people go into like right or wrong mode, it goes into people just kind of, start to feel failure and then they collapse and they don't want to do anything, or they whether prematurely end it or they don't even do it. So anyways, we have these like different core wounds that come up, and that's the stuff that when activated holds us back. And again, when we're already kind of tired and a lot's going on, it doesn't take a lot to expose, I say in a good way, shed light on some issues. Because when we're like, I feel like a champion, I can get it, don't matter when nobody says I'm good, you're right. You might kind of have a massive buffer, but it doesn't mean you don't have any like areas where you need to grow and heal. So anyways, I have two things I kind of wanted to cover today. My brother was telling me actually about this new AI chat website. It's actually strangely incredible. It's super, oh my goodness, it's like superhuman computer status. You can type any question and it will figure out a lot of life problems apparently. He was even having it like code for him and do amazing things. So I just started to like type different questions, and it was interesting to see what was coming up. So I was like, almost like a better version than Google. Google has a bunch of links, but this would just like give me paragraphs of questions. So I said, why do people self-sabotage? And short version gave me auto-populated 5 responses. Number 1, fear of failure or success. Okay, remember that. I'm going to go back into it. Number 2, lack of self-confidence. 3, negative self-image. 4, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Or 5, poor problem-solving skills. Let's kind of go into it. I'll kind of read the article and discuss as we talk. So I wanted to say this. If you have tracked what I've talked about in the past, we have these like core beliefs, and attachment theory gives us these templates of what we start to believe about ourselves and therefore relationships. Because everything that we experience with people on the outside is a complete reflection of what we believe we have, we deserve, what we can get. And that's how we perceive it based off of our own, again, self-worth, value, and whatnot. And so this is where that sabotage garbage comes up. We recreate, re-emulate, validate. We just get this in this cycle. Like if I can, like out of like 1,000% love, if I've only experienced 87%, you will always stick around this subconscious 87% of love that you can give and receive. Give to yourself and hence receive, right? Or if, let's say my family's income has been, I'm making this up, 112,000, around that number, how my family does life, how we spend and budget and whatnot, I will tend to kind of recreate those patterns, and then my income will probably be around that. Versus if I grew up in a family that looked at money different, managed money different, and if we only made $12 a year or $12 million, right? Those are those things being like subconsciously imprinted, those learned behaviors, right? And so now when I talk about these like core issues, and the reason I bring up attachment theory is because we have certain belief systems about, again, our own worth, value, success, power, influence, love, the list goes on. And so this is this invisible bar of sabotage, like whatever level you feel like you can get. If God will literally bring you $12 million to the door, at your door, be like, here you go, we will deny it. And we all say, no, we won't, but it's true. And that's the same reason why lottery winners will, boom, hurt themselves so bad. Oftentimes, they will go back, if not worse, to the original amount they were, quote, worth, right? Financially, like how much they were able to physically, if I could say, represent or manifest or whatever. It's no different than like you can bring a girl the most amazing guy who treats her like a princess. And if she doesn't believe she deserves it, guess what? She's going to shoo him out and find some kind of reason, because it's going to feel weird for her nervous system if she comes from a family of relationships where she's experienced less love. Right? So we can all say, oh, I wish I had more money. I wish I had a bigger following. I wish I had, like a guy who like loved me and would take me out and call me. I wish I had friends who we could do things together. We wish a lot of stuff. I don't think these wishes are not possible. I think we, on an invisible level, create and continue to recreate whatever level value bar we think we are worth. It has literally nothing to do with God. God has given it all to you. In the invisible, I call it the soul realm, we have now determined what we're able to receive and experience. So I've just been, like I said, with the wedding and all these different things, just kind of processing, like, where do I feel kind of triggered? Where do I feel like I'm unworthy? Where do I feel like I can't receive this? Where do I feel like, oh my gosh, that's too expensive, I can't? Where do I feel like, okay, no one's gonna want this? All this stuff, I have just been like driving around town a lot, and honestly, I am just being open. I have cried so much in my car. It's like my vehicle right now is like inner work being vehicle type of thing. I'm just processing. Why did I react like that? Like, for instance, I had something I needed to go to the dentist and pick up. And I remember one of the secretary ladies, reception ladies, was like asking me about my coaching program. And this was like, I think I just like launched it at the time. And I was like, oh my goodness, I should probably share some information about where I'm at and what I do and blah, blah, blah. And she's such a nice lady, like such a nice woman. Because she was like, oh, that sounds so interesting. That sounds like something I'd be interested in to check out. Like, I'll look into it later. I'm like thinking, oh my goodness, I could go to the dentist and say, hey, have you checked out my page? I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to like learn more where you're at. And I came, picked up my thing, and I looked at her, and I had this moment of like, okay, Yelena, like speak, open, share. You wanted to connect with her. And I froze. I was like, I can't do it. And then all of a sudden she, just gets up to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely not going to wait here. And I go to the car, and I'm like, what was that? Like, why did I do that? Why? What's going on? And I just was like, this is ridiculous. Okay, God, obviously, whether it was meant to be for me to talk to her or not, that doesn't even matter as much as I need to process what happened. And I've been telling God, like, Lord, I just keep getting so many amazing, like, people, fans, viewers, tell me about my stuff. They love what I do. And I am still trying to get to a level where I'm, if I could say, receiving or connecting with even more people. Like, I don't know, what's the word? I don't know, becoming more public. I don't want to say more followers. That's not really what I'm trying to say, but technically speaking, like, I want to have a bigger mass, a bigger population that I'm impacting that knows of me, because sometimes these algorithms are hard to like spread my name and what I do. But then I was like, why did I have such a hard time just like in person being like, hey, let's connect? What happened? And I just was starting to sob. These feelings of like, I'm scared started to come up. And like, prefrontal cortex, logical part of the brain's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're already doing all these things. Like, you're advertising, you already connect with people. But there was still this deeper inner being that's still like scared of having too much attention, apparently. Can you believe that? Like, I've told you guys before, when you're processing and healing, there's always layers and depths. And so what was coming up was like, I almost feel like Jesus was like giving me his hand, and it was like a stormy, big ocean. And he's like smiling at me, like reaches his hand, is like, come on, let's go. I want to take you to the other side, this island of abundance you keep talking about. And I'm like sobbing, like, I'm scared. I'm scared. Right. And I'm just like processing this vision, imagination, childlike faith, whatever you want to call it. Same thing, honestly. And Jesus is like, come on, like so nice, inviting me. And like the logical part of my brain's like, well, of course I want to go. But I realized on that subconscious emotional part deep within me, this like inner child, again, however you want to look at it, it was like getting scared. And I started to process of just like, I've kind of gotten into a zone of like, if I could say my comfort zone island with people, friends, communities, and you get used to that. And again, I've processed a lot, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, or let me know if you want to later. I just remember growing up in my family, I only had one brother, and all my other Slavic friends had 1 trillion brothers and sisters. And I was always jealous of that because they always had so much fun, and I wanted more siblings, and we didn't have that. But we did have, we were able to be enrolled in like music schools and different extracurricular things because we had some quote unquote extra money, which I don't even like to call it like that because I know both of my parents busted their butts working all the time. When I say this in love, most of my friends' moms did not work. My mom was always picking up shifts and doing things. So we were always like a working family, and we never, like my dad would always say, we have just enough. We have just enough money now I'm like, well, I need to break that off. I don't want to have just enough money. Like, I want to have my abundance. Like, where did this get programmed in my brain to just have enough? So I just like remember one time I was so young, and I some kind of like a disagreement with like a friend, and honestly just became such a traumatic memory because trauma is subjective, and no one can tell that 14-year-old that wasn't scary. If it was traumatic, it was traumatic for you, period. But I was like processing some disagreement with a friend, and I didn't really feel included, and that was like desperate, like survival, like in the brain, right? Limbic system, midbrain, that's all about attachment, connection, community, and even deeper, it's like hindbrain is responsible for survival. And I just like in my brain equated like not having sisters, like I had to be connected to girls at my church, otherwise like I'd be by myself equals what's the opposite of survival? Being cut off, literally, like just, I don't know, socially die or something. Like, it just became like a very extreme connection in my head, and it's something I've been trying to rewire and break since. And so I just was like, I want to be included. I wanted to be cared for and remembered by these girls. Always, again, whether real or perceived, that rejection crap started to settle within me, that started to replay itself over time. But I remember one of these girls was like, well, you're lucky in your own ways, because she had a lot of siblings actually. And I'm like, oh, okay, how? And she's like, well, you can buy yourself like an iPod. So at the time, that's what it was. Nowadays, if you're young, think of iPhone. And I just was like floored. I literally started to sob, and I said, if I could if I could have a sister, I'd sell everything. I don't care about the stupid money. I don't care about the stuff. Like, I care about relationships. Like, I'm designed, I just always wanted a sister and baby, and it like broke me. And so somewhere in my heart, again, I just started to equate stuff and material things and money as like, never show it, never flaunt it, like literally, if I had like an iPod, I would literally like just zip it up in my pocket and never let anyone see anyone, because I never wanted to stand out. Like, I just like started to hide things, and it wasn't shame because I wasn't embarrassed to have that. Like, I knew my family like really tried hard to like bless us, and we've never been a family that's ever even been materialistic, but I just did not want to stand out in any way. I didn't want to look like I was too good for anyone. I didn't ever want to stand out like, oh, she has this and that. Oh, she's so lucky. Oh, she has, I was like, nope, I don't want none of that. I just want to be with you guys. And I didn't even realize what a trap that started to become, because I was like, why am I like doing so much and busting my butt and like not seeing, if I could say, the level of results or success I want, until I started to recently process, well, Yelena, like you have made it almost like an internal vow with yourself that I have been literally breaking off this week like crazy. You have made a vow within you to not stick out in any way. Because again, that was never relationally safe for you to do that back in the day. And so it's like processing, like right now we're doing a wedding venue, and like, yeah, if these weddings is a business. The level of money thrown out is insane, but whatever. I started to feel really uncomfortable about one venue that my family was going to have for me. And I was like, I just feel so uncomfortable. I don't like this. I'm struggling to celebrate it, which we didn't even pick that venue, but I still was able to process like what was coming up. Like, why couldn't I just say no? Like, why was I like super struggling? And I started to realize like, oh yeah, that was the venue that back in the day growing up, I would hear voices like, oh yeah, Yelena would probably be getting me, this teenage years, right, guys? Yelena would be getting married at that venue because it's so rich and bougie and blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm like in my head, I was like, heck no, not going to be attached or a part of anything that makes me stand out. But then I was like at church processing, like a lot of processing happens at church when I'm there, of like, why are you saying no to these things? Like, why are you embarrassed of abundance? And I'm like, what? And I just felt like if your dad, let's say, says, I love you, my daughter, like I've been waiting for you to get married forever. I'm so excited for you. Here's a venue I want to bless you with for it to be beautiful, and who cares about how much it costs? I want to bless you. Like, I'm starting to feel so like, oh, I can't receive that. That's so expensive. That's ridiculous. What are people going to think? Like, that garbage starts to come up, which I am breaking off of me. But then I started to think, but what if that was literally Father God telling me, you are my princess daughter, and I'm literally giving you a palace to celebrate your wedding? Would I be like, oh no, I can't do that? No, if I literally understood that I am the princess and the king is my God, my dad, I'd be like, okay, that's nice. Cool, celebration, no big deal. So I was like, dang, like, why am I disqualifying myself on an earthly level for all the abundance that A, I'm praying about, and then B, when it's giving to me, I'm like, no, I don't want it. And so again, I was just like processing from like back in the day. Like, I had a few video shorts that I posted on YouTube and Instagram about like me playing the piano, and realizing that me having quote unquote too many talents made me also stand out in a bad way. And again, bad way only for people that were already jealous and wounded. Because I mean, I had some people that celebrated me, but like, you know how it is, the negative voices seem to be louder sometimes. And so anyways, I just started to process like, oh my gosh, stupid devil, as always, tries to hold people back, and has nothing to do with God not giving us abundance. And I just realized, like, for me in my head at the time, I just equated do not stand out. Don't ever show your talents. Don't show your money. Don't show this. Don't show that. Like, hide and be as average and normal, aka bland, as possible. And isn't that just the spirit of religion? Fear and control. Don't stand out. Be the same as everyone. Or you think you're better than her? Shame on you. Like, that's exactly what it comes down to. And it's like, no normal person would be like, Yelena, you should have nothing. Now I know as an adult, that's an ill person who would speak like that. And so I've just been processing the sabotage stuff. Like, going back to that lady with the dentist, I'm like, why did I start to cry, right? Or when I was processing, I was like crying it. Like, why did I get scared? And it's because I feel like God is legit inviting me to shine in my feminine mode. and just like be myself and flow. And I'm not like forcing anyone to be like, guys, get coaching from me and buy my course and do all these things. No, I'm inviting them to tap into and sharing with them things that have just enriched my life. Like like sharing with people beautiful, amazing things called health and healing, you know? And so as I see in this vision, Jesus is like calling me to go on the other side of the ocean to this new island. The part of me that was petrified was, well, that's abundance. And I'm going to have to say goodbye to some of the mindsets and people and old, like, taking off this old clothing off of me and stepping into the new, which is unknown, which is new, which is scary. But then I felt like God was like, well, but I almost felt like a future Yelena was like, don't worry, like, it's actually amazing over here. You meet healthy people. You have elevated mindsets, like your spirit soars, like the level of fun and confidence and joy and prosperity and wealth within your soul, emotions and everything is amazing. And I had to just like start to reprocess myself, like where I needed to let go, calm down, forgive myself, let myself try something new. So anyways, all this, hopefully this has been helpful, but processing like where does the sabotage come up, like where am I not shining, where do I have an opportunity to speak up and I'm not. And this last podcast I had about, is it fear or humility, it's like that's something else I've been processing. Like I realized for myself, like I don't think I'd ever really get into like overly self-promoting myself. Like, I don't think that's something I even need to worry about because I've held back for such a long time because of rejection issues. In fact, my biggest quote unquote sin that I have to overcome, or, that curse or whatever, like however you want to look at it, is not freely shining and being myself and elevating to the version that God created me to be. Like, I have a tendency to just like hide a little bit and hold back. And so, like, I just need to continue to just shine and be myself. And first of all, love myself and all of that in order to shine and show love to other people. And so I've just been processing sabotage. What does it look like? Where does it hide? What's the cycle I'm repeating? Where am I stuck? I'm telling you, like, the more processing internal deep work I go into and excavate, the higher I keep going. Like, all of a sudden, I'm a part of a group that I got selected to be of, like a coaching group that's going to help me just, if I can even say, clean up some of my business stuff, which is awesome. But anyways, I was also working with a client this week. Same thing, sabotage. She's just her presence is magnificent, amazing. She literally has the personality that most people who want to have some kind of social media or public presence have. She's fun. She's beautiful. She's open, she's spunky. On a branding level, her business is amazing. She actually has some, what's it called, graphic design background, so that's a huge plus for her because she can do the computer stuff behind. I mean, she's like, there's no way like a girl like that is not going to succeed. Or is there? Because guess what? We've identified some sabotage stuff coming up too. Like, I know her. When I knew her, she was like just under 4,000 followers when I met her end of October. And literally last time I checked, I think it's like 35,000 followers within like less than 2 months. Okay, guys, she's exploded ever since we've been working. I'm not saying I made her explode. I'm saying we have been working on internal things that have been helping her shine, and she's already so amazing at what she is. And like the Bible says, your gifts will make room for you. So no surprise there. But we noticed like she has a lot going on and she needs income. And in some ways it's like self-sabotage, holding herself back. She has like an opportunity to release a product, something that's paid, something that could literally support and sustain her so she's not burning out. And it's like, logically, it's like, what do you mean you don't have something that people can already purchase? Like, you have no reason not to. You literally have like a quadrillion followers and you're good at what you do and you're lovable and you're likable. Like, literally the only person getting in the way of your own success and you reaping your reward is yourself, which is sometimes the hardest thing to hear, but then like the best thing to hear, because like, again, it's all about perspective. And I've said this many times. If you see a pattern you don't like, don't blame yourself, reap the data and do something about it. I don't care if it's like your love life. I don't care if it's your business life. Again, it goes back to us, like, where are we holding ourselves back and recreating whatever max capacity we feel like we deserve. And we were able to identify some self-abandonment stuff, this mentality, I have to keep on working. Am I even worthy to receive anything? Is it dirty? Am I cheating people? Do I deserve this? A lot of that subconscious stuff. And so I have no doubt she's going to start to really excel, because last time she messaged me saying, okay, she's on it. She's about to release something. And again, I have no doubt, like no doubt that she will do well. And that's the thing. She's not even forcing anything. Like her people, her followers are going to be more than happy to pay her whatever to have her bless them with her experience and wisdom and services and whatnot. So, sabotage. I'm going to go into this a little bit. Sabotage. Number 1, fear of failure or success. And I'm just reading what AI chat told me. Some people may engage in self-sabotaging behaviors because they are afraid of failing, or guess what, even succeeding, right? Because with success comes responsibility. And as you can imagine, half of it's fear of failure, but the real issue is, well, what if I'm successful, right? Like for me, it started to lock into that, like, what if I'm super successful and some people are not my friends anymore, or they think I'm showing off, or they think that I'm all about money and that's it, or I'm not humble, crap like that, right? Sabotage. Anyways, they may not be afraid of the unknown or of not being able to handle the success or failure, so they engage in behaviors that prevent them from achieving their goals. Again, if sabotage was so obvious, maybe this would be less of a problem, but it legit is these subconscious things that like make the decision for us. And that's even where I have my Free to Thrive course, and I talk about it. Like literally the tagline for that course is break out of your default mode of operating and create a life that you desire. Because this default mode of operating is, oh, here's my limiting belief about success. Here's my limiting belief about this. Here's my, template about how much I feel like I can experience and receive love and success and whatnot. And so the more we are aware of these cycles that are holding us back, the more we can break them off. The next point, number 2, lack of self-confidence. Some people may engage in self-sabotaging behaviors because they do not believe in their own abilities or worth. They may feel that they are not capable of achieving their goals, so they engage in behaviors that undermine their efforts. Literally. Do I even need to go into it? It's like all the same. It just manifests itself in slightly different ways. Spirit of sabotage. Number 3, negative self-image. Some people may have a negative self-image and may engage in self-sabotaging behaviors as a way of reinforcing their beliefs about themselves. So those are those core beliefs I talk about. And number 4, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Some people may engage in self-sabotaging behaviors as a way of coping with stress or difficult emotions. They may use these behaviors as a way of avoiding or numbing their feelings. And I want to comment on this. It reminds me of like the nervous system, like when we can only handle so much distress or even love, which can feel distressing to people who aren't used to experiencing that. That is where we're like, nope, our nervous system is used to experiencing a certain state of just anxiety or flatness, and we will continue to try to like revert back to that. Versus be like, okay, we need to start coping different. We need to do something different, and we need to be able to tolerate this distress, or not even distress, but this uncomfortability until it starts to become new and normal and good. Because I remember I've worked with clients who experience love or a secure attachment, or from a boyfriend who cares about them, or a therapist who's genuinely interested and present. And when their nervous system experiences that for the first time with someone, it freaks them out, and that's when people kind of disappear and want to leave counseling. But don't worry, I already warned my clients that's going to come up, so now that you know, you can't do it. Or the other thing I was going to say is basically the nervous system, we got to retrain that. Oh yeah, even in that vision when Jesus was like telling me to come the other side, I was like, I can't, that's so scary. And he's like, you're not even alone. Like, I'm with you. Like, let's do this. Like, again, like our nervous system starts to freak out and we want to revert to the old where it feels safe, but it never gets us to the next level. Right? You got to risk it for the biscuit. And then number 5, poor problem solving skills. Some people may engage in self-sabotaging behaviors because they do not have the skills or resources to effectively solve problems or overcome challenges. Honestly, on a very practical level, I've seen this too. Whether it's people who quit prematurely or whatever. I remember working at the high school. Sometimes I was like, here's an example, like a kid who would lose all his stuff all the time. It's like, okay, dude, get yourself a backpack. I don't even know where my backpack is. It's like, what is going on that you in your brain can't even like compute you need a backpack? Okay, fine. He finally has a backpack. Folders. Stuff is always lost. Stuff is mixed up. Like nothing is organized. It's a mess. And sometimes when I like come in, and sometimes like I remember back then when I was working with those kids, I'd be like, what is going on? That like whether your backpack is like a legit representation of what's going on in your brain and you're just in berserk mode with like ADHD, or is like, obviously I was probably not the best. Let's just say it like this. Kids that need help with like organizing their backpack, that was not my ideal population. No way. Like I'd get like frustrated with that. Like to me it was so common sense, but then I also knew that like I had to like teach some of these kids, because when you get to know their family and their parents and the stuff at home, it's like, yeah, how would they know how to organize their backpack? Literally, family is just a mess, and that's very sad. But I would like explain to kids, like literally, like you knew you had to turn in that piece of paper to, let's say, pass this class that you've been like whining and crying about and everyone's been trying to help you. You literally just had to bring in this last piece of homework, and like, you know how it is in high school, sometimes you just submit the piece of paper and you can get a D and still pass or whatever. Just write your name on it, for crying out loud, because that's better than missing assignment. And you should have been guarding that piece of paper like with your life. And when a kid still magically loses that, I'm like, clearly, honestly, you obviously have some deep unworthiness core issues. And someone might be like, you're blowing this out of proportion. But that's what it would come out to. Like you just keep living your life as just like literally like a failure. Because if you believed something different about yourself, you could at least guard a piece of paper and submit it with your name. Like if that is not like you losing this and failing this class, or even like worse situations when we'd have kids that like literally couldn't even graduate from high school, if that's not sabotage, because it's high school. And I'm not talking about like people that had to drop out for other reasons. Like I say this in love, but the United States really makes it quite possible with their numerous programs for kids to graduate school. But by the time someone just completely drops out and can't do it, I'm just like, there's obviously bigger issues at play here. Anyways, I don't want to digress. But so anyways, these are some of the reasons people self-sabotage, and the more we understand the root cause of what's going on and identify how it's coming up in you, the better. Because this client that I was working with this week, she was like, oh, I didn't even know that was sabotage. Like that totally makes sense. Like I could not piece it together. And that's the thing, like that's why we have the body of Christ. That's why we come together, because oftentimes we can't see what's going on. Like we are blinded. And that's why I'm not afraid to have coaches and counselors and mentors, outside people that could be like, Yelena, like with their wisdom, but also their outside perspective, help me piece together and see things I can't. That's why I need people from another level, like invited into my life to do that, to have them help me. So anywho, I don't even know, guys. Maybe I'm not gonna even call myself an entrepreneur coach. Maybe I'll just call myself the sabotage eradicator coach or something crazy. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Like our issues of not fully consciously and subconsciously believing unconditional love, abundance, and inheritance that literally Father King God has for us and has called us children. Okay. If we don't believe that, then again, those are our soul wounds, our issues playing it out. and not letting us ascend to the level that God promises He's given us. It has nothing to do, again, with Him not giving it to us. The problem is we are not able to receive that, to break off these cycles, patterns, behaviors, whether it's individual, most likely it's generational, where we have tapped out and to not experience the fullest glory that God promises us. So I hope you guys received a lot from this episode. I really actually have been really liking this topic in general, so we'll see where I go. Write some flames or some comments on this podcast if I should do like a self-sabotage destroyer coaching group or something fun. Let me know. Anyways, as always, comment, subscribe, like, share this with people that you think is helpful. This is me not self-promoting, but this is me shining and sharing God's promises in abundance. So let me know what your thoughts are. Have an abundantly beautiful day, and I will talk to you later.